Turnbull, Mr. Nick Turnbull. Say hi.
How's everyone doing today? How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I want to figure out before we go any further, what's this show about, Nick?
It's a little bit about everything: sports, PDs, just Miami life.
Miami life. It's a little bit about you too.
A little about me, a little bit about you.
Absolutely, a little bit about
athletes.
Performance, right? No, it's a lot about sports, a lot about athletes.
Yeah.
And we're going to have a great guest today on the show in a minute, in a little bit. A world champion,
Yes.
A fighter, a hell of a fighter, actually. And before that, I want to talk a little bit about you. I know that you are a local guy. You were born in Miami, is that correct?
Correct. I was raised in Carroll City.
Carroll City. Went to high school in where? In Broward and Flanagan's High School?
I went to Flanagan.
Okay, and you played football. I played
football, basketball, and then I was fortunate enough to go to FIU.
That's right.
So
and hold on,
Miami all the way around.
Right? You're very 305. I think Pitbull has a little competition there, but anyway,
He's Miami too.
He's all 305 also. So I heard. I want to get this right. You still today have the record for most interceptions in FIU for the Golden Panthers. Is that correct?
I do. I have 4 years there. So,
Okay.
I was consistent every year. I was able to get that record. I also had the record in high school. At one point, I owned the record in the state
Wow.
for interceptions.
Right.
I don't know if it still stands, but I did have it. And
by the way, I hold a bunch of records too. But
we're going to get into that, right?
But we'll talk about that some other time. But continue.
But I played in the NFL for several years. I also played in the UFL, which I also have the record there for most interceptions.
At the UFL.
Correct. I mean, that league only lasted about 4 years.
Right. And you were signed, in 2006?
Yes.
And who signed you? Atlanta, right?
I went to Atlanta.
And what other teams did you play for?
Chicago and Cincinnati.
All right.
Chicago, I was able to go to the Super Bowl. We lost, but I was able to come back to Miami for the Super Bowl. So it was
there you go.
Experience.
That was good.
It was a fun experience.
That was good. So we're gonna have a lot of fun. Hopefully one of many.
Yes.
And we're looking forward to our guest today.
We are.
We're not going to say who it is yet.
Before we get into the guest, I gotta ask you a question.
Oh God!
Because I did see the documentary.
What documentary?
Screwball.
Oh.
So my question is, how does a guy get motivated to get into that field? I know the documentary kind of explains it.
Yeah.
I want you to elaborate a little bit on.
That's a loaded question.
It is.
Listen, nothing was done deliberate. I swear to you, it was all by default. And I've always loved science. I think we discussed this outside of the studio.
Yeah.
My parents were physicians, and I was around this all my life. And then I went to undergrad school, got myself a degree in science, and then became a respiratory therapist, and went on to medical school in Belize, right?
Mm-hmm.
I like to promote that. And one thing led to another, and here I was doing really not athletes, but functional medicine,
right?
And before functional medicine was functional medicine,
right? I know. I saw some on the documentary. It said you had at one point 300 or 400 clients in the beginning. So that's not a business that you could actually market and promote. I know it was all referral based. So how did that end up going about? Like, how did you get your first client to lead to 300 clients? Like in such a quick span?
Okay, you're talking about 300 athletes. I believe that's what you're saying about.
Yes,
yeah,
I'm talking about that.
I ended up with about more or less 300 athletes. It was all word of mouth, and contrary to popular opinion, I didn't promote or advertise it. They would just come to me, and it's a very small industry, and if one athlete had great outcomes and had a great experience, he would tell another and another and another and another, and that's how it developed, and that's how it grew from there.
Right.
But you know what they say, be careful what you wish for.
True.
And I love sports and I love science and the science of precision or the performance, and it all came together for me.
Yeah.
It all came together, and I had a great time. By the way, in case you were wondering.
No, I can see.
But now, okay. So listen, I want to get to our next guest. I think it's a little bit more interesting than,
right.
at least than me. Maybe not you, but what was your favorite? I always, when people ask me, "Oh, I saw Screwball," and they ask me these loaded questions like you just did. I got a volley back, and so, what was your favorite line? Tell me your favorite line of Screwball. Movie. It doesn't have to be my line.
I got one.
What? Which one?
Biogenesis is better than Tinder. Explain that.
That was mine. That was mine.
Okay, you gotta explain what that meant. What does that mean?
Okay.
How is Biogenesis even compared to Tinder?
That's so funny, and that line just came to me. And I don't know why I was thinking of Tinder. Maybe I was on Tinder the night before. Who knows? I'm only kidding. It unbeknownst to me, I found out much later that after everything was exposed and the scandal hit the media and all that, and the media did all the investigation for me. I didn't have to find out, but these investigative journalists found out all this stuff that was going on that I had no idea. So I had a bunch of nurses, medical assistants, clerical girls working for me. And remember, at the end of the day, I was selling sex and vanity, a little performance, but a lot of sex and vanity. So what sells? Women sell. This is a young man's game. There's a woman's game too, and women dominate in this field. Believe it or not, right? They're the motivating factor at least. And so, I would always see like people hanging out, like clients of mine hanging out. Right? And they would hang out, and I was thinking to myself, why would they hang out so much? And they would go and come back, and there was always the same amount. And I found out later that apparently I'm not. And remember, we don't say names on the show
at all,
okay? Unless it's something good. So, but I guess they were doing extra services. They were providing extra services that I had no idea that it was going on. I was in my own bubble, in my own room, doing my own thing, and they were in other rooms, and
so that explains why you had clients and customers coming back, because that was your marketing.
Apparently, that
was your way marketing.
I think I got the best of it because I underpaid, because I should have paid them more for all the marketing that they did.
True.
And so maybe that's why I had like 80% males and 20% women at that time.
You're in Miami, though. You never know.
And and so much so, remember the documentary, it ended up that one of my main nurses, my head nurse, at that time, I think went out with one of the MOB's head investigator.
Oh my God.
And
isn't that like a conflict of interest though?
No, listen, it's more than it's a shit show, is what it is.
Yeah.
But forget about conflict of interest. But anyway, it's funny you bring that up.
That is funny.
Yeah. Now I'm just remembering we had a great time.
Hey, that's the best quote. Tinder's still relevant.
I know it is. But anyway, okay, so are you ready to introduce our guest?
Yeah, let's get into it. I'm anxious to speak with him.
Okay. So our guest is not only a friend of mine, but one of the greatest fighters I've seen fight. He's a 4-time MMA world champion, and he is the undefeated bare knuckle champion. Let's give it up for Bamboon.
Thank you for having
What's
me,
up,
brother.
Louis?
Good, man?
Thank you for coming. We were so excited to have you here.
You are.
Hey, do you think I have a chance for announcement?
Oh, definitely, man. I put you on the next card.
At least, like,
Gonna debut you here in Miami.
Yeah, I went to go go see one of his fights, right?
Yeah.
One of his first, and this is an amazing sport for you guys that don't understand what this. I'm a boxing purist. If you're a boxing purist like myself, you would love this sport. I like MMA. I love boxing, and it's like a full circle has come around. Boxing was popular at one time. Then MMA took over, right?
Yep.
And now there's this thing called bare knuckle fighting,
Right.
and it is amazing. Let me tell you, I only had one complaint from the fight I went to go see, and the place was packed. The place was, I don't know, there was like 4,000 or 5,000 people. Only one. Listen, there was only one bar, one bartender. These fights are like 2 minutes long or less. And by the time I went to go get a drink and come back, it was all half the fights were over. So listen, if we work on that, I think this is going to be a hit. But no, all kidding aside, Louis, thank you for being here. And so tell us about what if you want to tell us a little bit about bare knuckle, go ahead. I know Nick has a lot of questions, but my main question for you is, how do you do it? How were you four-time MMA champion, world champion at that? And this guy's quick, Nick. You should see this guy in his fights. But I know that then you retired from MMA, and then all of a sudden you had this surge of energy or this new dream, and you said, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go after this belt too, because I am Bamboon.
Man, first of all, I got to thank, the man that's been working for a long time to make his dream come through, which is the promoter, Dave Feldman. And it's because of his dream that I got another opportunity to be able to fight a little longer, because like you said, I was retired. I hadn't retired publicly, but in my mind, I was pretty much done because I had been hurting my MMA record. I was fighting in Russia the last 3 years, fighting the Russians in Russia. Wow. You can't win decisions like this. You know what I mean? Like,
sounds like a movie.
Yeah. I was fighting the toughest of the toughest, undefeated guys. And, in a very tough, in the biggest competition out of Europe, ACB, which is now called ACA, right? And it's the biggest out of Europe. And the competition is like very high level competition, And I started hurting my records. I'm losing these decisions that, I'll say out of the 4 decisions, I never got controlled. I never got beat up. I never got hurt, but I'm losing decisions, So,
right.
It's going to the crowd guy, to the guy from the hometown guy.
Right.
So I started seeing my record getting hurt, and I was like, man, it's not good.
Not worth it.
I don't want to ruin my legacy like this. So I kind of like put a stop to it, because I've been fighting with torn ligaments in my knee for the last 4 years too, that people don't really know about. Not everybody knows about it. A bad toe. So, without the boxing shoes, it was like I'm boxing MMA fighters at a very high level.
Wow.
And they're not finishing me.
Right.
So you could, I still have fire in me. I still have fight in me. But for MMA, it's like, it was a little tough. Can I do it? I could do it.
Right.
But
now that you say fire, I remember watching your fights, and and I went to watch him in person. You see him, he's humble now, Nick. Yes. You see how humble he is?
He is.
It's like a different person. It's like, and I don't know who coined
2 masks.
I don't know who called you Bamboon or coined that phrase for you or whatever, or gave you that tagline. But yeah, you're like an animal. This guy's forget a baboon. It's like it's like a whole zoo put together. It's like a baboon, a tiger, a lion, turns different faces. His color of skin turns different. This guy's like, you want to run away,
right?
Basically, you're not a fighter.
Based on what you said, it's every athlete to me is some type of warrior.
Yeah.
But bare knuckle to me is a complete different type of warrior. Like when we were kids, we grew up fighting all the time, but it wasn't like,
especially in 305, right?
Exactly. So it wasn't like, hey, come meet me in my backyard. We're gonna have an organized fight. It was, I'm gonna fight you because you spoke about my mom, you stepped on my shoes, you took my girlfriend, whatever reason. So we were fighting more towards hate. Like we had a reason to fight. So my question is, how do you mentally prepare yourself to fight someone that you don't necessarily have any issues with? Like, and then besides that, like if we win or lose in football, we lost.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is the victory and the loss greater as a fighter? Because when you lose, it's like I lost. You know what I mean? And then does that make you like do you want revenge?
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
Are you vindictive of
yeah? So to answer the very first question is, I think it's a thing of competition.
Right.
I'm a competitive man by nature. Right. And I have a thing where, like, even since I was young, if I joined like capoeira, for example, I boxed in Cali for 3 years.
Right.
I was 10 years old to 13. And when I came to Miami, I couldn't get to a boxing gym. You know, it was too far away. My mom wouldn't let me. You know, it was the gang activity back 20 years ago, man.
Oh,
it was crazy, and I was looking for that. I was still hungry for it.
Yeah, and
I found capoeira. I go to a capoeira team that is predominantly Brazilians. I can speak fluent Portuguese because of capoeira.
Right.
And what do I got to do? I want to be the best. So I ended up fighting the best, and so on. Everything that I join in, I want to be the best at, and I work my ass off because there's people that are talented in this game, just like in football and basketball. There's some people that are just born with talent.
Yes.
And then there's people that just work their asses off. I was not talented, so I really hated when people were like, "Oh man, he's talented." I'm not talented. I couldn't kick for shit in MMA. Excuse me for the language, but I couldn't really kick with like control. Like I had to like swing my kick my whole entire body because I couldn't. I have no flexibility and no coordination, so I had to really work and work and work. So when you work for so many years as something, you want to keep proving yourself.
Right.
How far, what stature have you reached, right?
Yeah.
And bare knuckle is pretty much like any other fighting platform that I've been in, that I want to be the best. So I don't have to hate you.
Right.
And you are in there trying to hurt me. Correct. So I'm definitely trying to hurt you. Right. But more than anything in my head is I want to beat you.
Right.
I want to conquer you.
Right.
So and as far as winning or losing, there's no bigger high than winning, man.
Right.
And you should know this, right?
I do, but I think as an individual sport, I think it's even higher.
Yeah, man.
It's also lower because it's not like we did it. It's like I did it.
It's very true. And when you lose, it's just as heavy.
Right.
When you lose, it's just as heavy. And the first thing that you want, I think the best one that's ever said it ever was Randy Couture, UFC, a former heavyweight champion. Yeah. And he said, "You are only as good as your last fight."
It's true.
Absolutely.
You're only as good as your last win.
Absolutely. I
so it's like if you happen to lose, you got to think about it like this, man. You're going to get embarrassed in front of all your family, all your friends, all your fans, and it's you. You lost, you got choked out, you got knocked out, you got hurt, you got bled out, So it is a little heavier, when it's time to either celebrate or take that loss.
Right.
And the first thing that everybody fighter wants to do is avenge that loss.
Right.
Whether it's immediate remeasures, most people don't get. I've never got one. Or just going for the next fight where you can win.
Yeah. Right. Are you open to giving rematches?
Am I open to what?
Giving rematches.
Yeah, I'm definitely open if you earn your way back.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. You're just not going to give it to him, right?
No,
okay, that's how I would have been.
I would want a rematch or
we're going to sign Tony at the spar.
Yeah, right.
But what's the difference between like Bellator and bare knuckle? Like I know the healing process might take longer. I'm not sure. I mean, if you get cut, a cut is a cut, regardless if you have gloves or not. But what's the biggest difference?
All right, so I would say let's look at the rounds, right? Bellator, MMA, for example, right? ONE FC, Bellator, UFC, you name it, right? Those are 5-minute rounds,
right?
And that's what I've been used to training for, right? And a lot happens in 5 minutes, man. But you have, even if they're small, you have 4-ounce gloves, and you have a wrap under that.
Right.
So your hand is fully protected.
Right.
In bare knuckle, it's bare knuckle, man. It's bone to bone, So there's no protection for your hands. You only have a protection on your wrist. It looks like we have something on.
Yeah.
But it's just your wrist being protected, and all of this is open. So the rounds are 2-minute rounds. Boxing rounds are 3-minute rounds. MMA is 5-minute rounds.
Right.
But even boxing, 3-minute rounds with big old gloves, right? 10-ounce gloves, right? 8-ounce gloves are the smallest in professional fights. In bare knuckle, man, if you're doing 3-minute rounds, look, within the first 2 rounds, your hands are puffed up. I wish I could show you a picture. My hands it look like mitts.
Yeah.
It look like
I couldn't even imagine a street fight going longer than 2 minutes, period.
Yeah.
Well, it's a street fight.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Like it's just
end,
raw, uncut. Yeah. Like I remember growing up when kids would fight, it was less than a minute, it'll be done. By the time everyone's on the ground, somebody's tapping out. Like
that's it, giving up.
Or one cut, you're done.
And that's the thing, right? With bare knuckle, you're open for cuts. So for the masses, it's so easy to understand because it's like round 1, there's probably already a cut. There's probably already cut happening. And round 2, the hands are puffy, there's blood coming down. It's probably been a knockdown already.
Yeah. Because
we have an 8-count rule, like unlike MMA. MMA, you get knocked down, you're gonna get finished.
Right.
Yeah. They're gonna get on top of you, ground and pound, or choke you out.
Right.
In bare knuckles, like boxing, the only difference between boxing and bare knuckle is that in boxing you have 3-minute rounds. In bare knuckle, you have 2-minute rounds, as we discussed, right?
Right.
Another thing is, we don't have gloves on, obviously. And the other thing is we can grab the head with one arm. Can't grab the clinch with both arms.
Right.
But you can dirty box. You can grab the head and punch with the other hand.
Carol City.
It's a
Carol
street
City
fight.
style.
Yeah, exactly. So that's legal.
fight.
That's legal, you know.
Hey, I want to ask you something, Louis. I want to ask you something because I remember, your last fight, how you got the belt.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong. There was bad blood there between you and Alex. I know that. I think and this is what I want you to clear. I want you to clear this up. And this is interesting. How interesting is he? This is awesome. I remember he was your sparring partner, your training partner,
Old training partner of mine.
But then there was bad blood that goes back quite some time, right?
Well, look,
can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So to make it clear, I earned this first belt, the BKFC belt.
Show us the belt.
Before that fight.
Show us the belt.
So this is my beauty and my favorite belt today.
Wow, look at that.
No, bare knuckle fighting championship belt, and I was the very first one in history to earn it. As we are speaking about it in sport, right?
That's amazing.
Thank you, man. And I earned this in Mississippi. Okay, I fought against an under because Adler's was supposed. Okay, look, there was a tournament open. Okay, it was a 3-fight tournament. I fought my debut, and Adler's fought the same night. We both went to a decision, right? He got fight of the night. Adler's was holding fight of the night, knockout of the night, fighter of the year.
That pissed you off?
No, not at all. Because he was an old friend of mine. And he was just the face of the organization. He was taking everybody out like nothing.
Got it.
He was really hurting people. So, it was very impressive, right? And when they opened up the tournament, that's when I signed the contract. So I signed a contract with a 3-fight deal, and I said, okay, at least I end up with a title in the end, right? So I went in, we signed the contract. I fought the first fight. It was a decision, taking care of my fights. Second fight comes, and pandemic hits. So I was booked to fight somebody, the fight fell off. I was already 2 camps in. So it's like, think about this, right? For us, we go through 8 weeks, 12 weeks of training, dieting, all the sacrifices you do, man. You're not drinking, not doing anything like that. Everything's to the fight. And then there's no pay. I don't get paid unless I step in there,
Right, of course.
So I went through 2 camps. The fight fell off. Then the tournament fell off completely.
Right.
Then they wanted to make the title fight between me and Adler's. Right. And then the fight was already set. Contract signed. I'm going into my 3rd camp already, And this dude happens to pull out a few weeks before, talking about, his trainer caught COVID.
Got it.
So when I got the call, I didn't get the call. He hit me up, right? Adler's, he's an old friend of mine. So he hit me up like, hey man, I wanted you to hear from me first. I'm like, oh fuck, what's he gonna say? So he tells me, look, my trainer. So when he tells me about his trainer, I'm like, okay, but do you have COVID? And he was like no, okay, well, waiting on the results. Okay, but if you don't have it, are you still fighting? And look, I talked to my family, talked to my coaches, and we're gonna sit this one out. So it was his choice not to show up to the fight. So they found a replacement. At this point in time, he was 4-0. Okay? Got it. And they found a guy that was also 4-0.
Right.
Right? In bare knuckle.
Right.
In bare knuckle. He was 4-0 in bare knuckle. Right? And he had just took out Melvin Gillard, which is a knockout, he's a knockout artist from UFC. The dude is heavy-handed. He's fighting only Bellator, UFC, he's big time, right? And this dude took him out. So it's not like they're giving me some rinky-dink dude, some tomato can. No, the guy, he was good. He was undefeated, never been knocked down even in the sparring session. That's what he told me after I fought him. I fought him. I knocked him out in 45 seconds.
I remember.
And when I hugged him, he told me, man, I'm sorry I couldn't give you a better fight. You're too fast. And I've never been even knocked down, not even in a sparring session. It's a lot of power behind it. And,
man, lightning.
Yeah.
You're not fast. He's like, you know what? I have a new name, Flash.
So then the fight had to happen.
Right.
Look, a champion doesn't call nobody out. Right. You got to be realistic with what is, right? My thing was this. If Jim Adams is the face of the organization, he's the number 1 contender. He was the one that was supposed to get a title shot before me.
Right.
I just got into the company,
Right.
And I haven't taken him out. Then I got to take him out.
Right.
So I called him out. I said, I want Jim Adams in Miami, to defend
And
his
he
title.
didn't like that.
He tried to utilize that, like, if, what kind of champion cause I'm in your mind, I'm living in your mind, I'm living in your head rent free, all this talking. He's starting the fight. Look, he was an old friend of mine. We never had beef in the past, right? We never had no problems. He was an old training partner of mine. I respected him. He respected me. But he was in an old gym of mine where, like, I was the first one in the gym. I was the first one that brought 4 world titles to the gym.
Wow.
After me came Ricardo Lamas, that was, fought Jose Aldo, that was number 3 in the world in UFC for like 5 years straight.
I remember.
Amanda Nunez, that's the active champion. She lived with me.
Absolutely.
All these people came after me. And
okay, let me stop you there, just so, because I know that we want to definitely know. How about now? Do you have same question, but how is it now after the fight? How are you? Is there still bad blood?
No, man. Okay, so when the fight happened,
I don't know if there's still bad
blood. We're starting the fight, and the press. Okay, there was 2 press conferences, right? There was one that wasn't even ours. It was introducing Paige Van Zandt, which was a UFC fight, right? And after the press conference, this dude was running around with a fake belt, man.
No.
He was walking around the entire time doing interviews and with a belt that he made up himself that said Jim Adler's Bare Knuckle FC. He was walking around with it, so I don't want to say that it pissed me off, because it really didn't. It made me laugh. So I kind of like called it out when we were in the press conference. The press conference wasn't for us. So after everything was over, anybody have any questions? And I stood up with my real belt, right? And I went over there and I was like, I got a question. And that one went viral because, what's up with that fake ass belt over there? And the dude came, got in my face. And I was like, hey, look, man, get out of my face.
I think I saw that.
Yeah, that went viral. He got in my face. And then, hey, look, man, just get out of my face. You're too close.
This was already after the fight?
No, this was before.
Before the fight.
Yeah, we just signed the
contract. The fight broke out.
Yeah. So then he got in my face, and I, told him, get out of my face.
Did you headbutt him?
And I headbutt him. But look. I've been headbutting people since I was 14 years old, man. In Miami, bro, man, in Miami, if you don't get rid of the person in front of you, you're gonna get clipped by 3, 4, 5 guys.
100%.
So you gotta get rid of the first person and turn around.
Lewis, where in Miami exactly?
That was in the America's Top Team, the biggest America's Top Team gym, the headquarters in Boca.
Yeah,
is that where you grew up?
No, where I grew up. No, I thought you were asking me where
did you grow up?
No, I was raised and born in Peru, but morely raised in Miami because I've been here 30 years.
But where
part of Miami?
Miami Beach, man. Miami Beach, First Street. That's my city.
Miami Beach.
Miami Beach in your high school. That's my hood.
That's
you went to Miami Beach High School?
Yeah.
What are they? The Tide? Miami Beach?
Yeah, Miami High Tide.
Let me ask you something, because you brought something up that I think is in the forefront of all sports, and we've seen sports change because of it. And I'm going to ask you the obvious: how has COVID affected your sport?
It did huge, because we were in the middle of a tournament. The tournament dismantled because of COVID. Everybody was on call, everybody's waiting, and then Dave, being the man that he is, man, the man didn't stop pushing, and he found a place to do a show again, which was in Mississippi, and then he opened up again, and then Miami had opened. That's the fight that you went to,
right?
And we had open. It was limited, but we filled that up.
Oh my God, there was
a
bunch of people there.
So it was. I mean, it ruined a lot of fights.
Right.
It messes with your training.
Right.
Man, because you can't. You don't have sparring partners like you normally do. Like, man, look, for this first fight, for my debut, picture this, all right? A garage in Miami, all right, with the garage door closed and there's no AC inside. Because that's the way we got to train.
Right. That's the way you got to train.
The gym can be operate.
Right.
I'm getting.
Oh, that's right. Because of COVID.
Yeah.
Everything
so
closed.
I had to get in shape like that, man, in the hot box. Like
we used to do that when we were younger. Like, we had to make weight for certain sports, and we would go into a room and I was just hot and put garbage bags on us and just sweat. Yeah. That's what I wanted to ask you next is, we spoke earlier and you were saying you walk around about 175 and then
I don't get no heavier. Yeah.
About you gotta lose. So how do you lose so much weight so quick and still have the energy to go out there and throw hands? Like,
good question, man. Look, in my MMA career, I had no idea about weight cutting. I learned the hard way. In MMA, I made every possible mistake you could make.
Right.
And I still came out on top of 4 titles. not bad, you know.
Yeah.
I didn't have no amateur fights. I went straight to pro. And in my first fight, I'm in a 23-second knockout. Second fight, 25-second knockout. Fighting 170. The 170 guys, how much you weigh? About 200 something, 220, 215?
I'm up there, yeah.
Right? All right.
I'm not going to say that too much on camera.
All right. 170-pound fighters walk around like you.
Right.
Okay. You're about 6'4", 6'3"?
I'm about 6'3".
All right. I go and
Are you calling him out?
No.
right.
Because he reminds me.
The fight.
He reminds me of my third fight. You remind me of my third fight.
Right.
I fought Jeremy May. Jeremy May was 6'3", and I fought him at 170. Right. This is how I learned about weight cutting. I'm in the weigh-ins, and this dude is walking around in a sauna suit. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? You know. Next day, I'm across the cage. This is my third pro fight. I never did amateurs.
Yeah.
And I'm looking across the cage, and this dude looks bigger. He looked a lot bigger, man, because he was already tall, like you know. But he was thick. And I was like, what the hell, man? Whatever. The thing that has saved me is I have power. I'm small, but I have power. You know? And being smaller, I'm faster.
Yeah.
So, you know, I didn't even knock him out. He was too tall. All the punches would land here.
Right.
You know, like I wasn't that good either. I was just powerful, you know. And after the fight, I asked him, hey man, what were you running around with a sauna suit yesterday? I was doing my last 5 pounds. I'm like, what you mean? I'm like, yeah, man, in my last 5, I come down from 210.
Oh, wow.
And I was like,
that's a big difference.
I had no idea. I was 168. I didn't even make 170.
But doesn't that affect? And well, you know,
people exaggerate and does affect the performance.
Right.
Because I started cutting weight. When I came down from 170 to 155, I became champion right away.
Right. Because everyone else is doing the same thing.
Yes.
You're really fighting.
But I suffered. I suffered because I didn't know how to cut weight.
Right.
So if you don't know how to do this properly, it definitely will take more than 50% of your performance.
You do it with the sauna, right? Like you sit in saunas.
Look, there's a process to it. That's the dehydration part. I was
going to say, because how do you go into the fight? Like, because I've done it before.
Yeah.
So I could tell you.
You shouldn't be dehydrated longer than 24 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, and some people most fighters don't know what they're doing.
Right.
They'll be dehydrated for 2-3 days. And I was doing that. I was one of those. And then your brain dehydrates and it doesn't hydrate on time.
Right. So it's hard to function.
Yeah. You don't, it's not, you feel yourself like not reacting the same. It's like, it's weird, you know?
Right.
But,
so is nutrition a big
huge. Look, I learned how to cook because of fighting.
That's interesting.
I learned how to cook because of fighting, because I was boiling everything. I was taking away all the nutrition out of my food.
Right.
What saved me was that I was a little younger.
Right.
And I was always training.
Yeah.
But nutrition, and so look, first you got to drop your body fat percentage.
Right.
Then comes the dehydration process.
Right.
And that's where most people get it wrong. They'll do like 20 pounds, man, 25 pounds of water. And you expect to perform the same the next day?
Yes, I had to do that once. My coach told me once, I was weighing about 227 at the time, and he tells me, I need you at 212. So I love food. I like to eat. And I'm not fat. I mean, abs and everything, but I like to eat. So the day before I had to go do my weigh-in, I was panicking. So I went into the sauna, not thinking how effective it was. So I go in the sauna for like an hour the night before, maybe 2 hours. I don't shower. I wipe it off with the towel because I was afraid if I come back into me, right?
We all say the same thing.
I didn't even shower. So I woke up early in the morning. I went again for another hour, and I went to go weigh myself, and I ended up weighing like 205, which was all lied weight. So I'm sitting there like, oh man, I weigh 205. They're never gonna believe this. So I go and sit down in our meeting room, and I had about 10 Gatorades and just chugging because I was so dehydrated.
Before you showed them the weight?
No, I
waited. You already had waited, okay.
So I started drinking the Gatorade.
You went up right away.
I did.
Of course.
My fingers were crossed. I didn't think they were gonna believe me, and I was hoping Coach didn't walk back in there and say, "Hey, I need to weigh you again."
Ooh,
I couldn't. Terrible. I don't know how people do it 24 hours. I couldn't even do it for 12 hours.
There's a process to it.
I felt dry.
There's a process called water loading.
Right.
I don't know if you ever heard of that.
I have.
You got to water.
I've heard of it, but I'm retired now.
Exactly. So you got to water load. You can't just drop water like that, because so and it makes it easier for you to drop off the water.
Right.
So like people normally water load for 5 days.
Right.
So water loading meaning like you're drinking like 2 gallons of water every day.
2 gallons?
2 gallons. Depending on your size. Like for you, it'd probably be like 2 gallons and a half. For me, it's 2 gallons.
I barely could drink a gallon of water.
Well, you got to drink it. You got to like force it.
I can drink everything else but water.
That's where knowing your metabolism is so important.
Oh, yeah.
percentage of body fat comes in,
Mhm.
extracellular water over total body water, intracellular
Yeah.
fluids, extracellular fluids.
The science comes out.
And, well, I got to put in a little science
exactly,
here.
exactly.
I can't, I'm not like class athletes like you guys. So, but I do have an athlete within somewhere.
Exactly.
Baseball.
Exactly, Columbus, baby. But that's where that's important, and the more you know your body, like you do, the more you can manipulate that.
Yep. I started to understand that I can do 10 pounds overnight.
Right.
I started to understand that if I water load properly, and like tomorrow I'm gonna weigh in, then tonight I'll lose about 7 pounds. And
Water weight.
Yeah, water.
Right.
So I put on a sauna suit, put on my sweet sweat, Albolene was the old one that we used to use,
right?
Which is just a makeup remover that opens up your pores.
Yeah.
And the fact that you've been water loading, the brain is taking it like there's water coming in here, let's throw it out.
Right.
So it's easier to sweat and you're peeing.
So you would put stuff on to open your pores up?
Yeah, you
like
put
sweat
this,
more?
it's like a low, yeah. Right now there's a new one called Sweet Sweat. Back in the days it was called Albolene. Bosch has been using it for years.
Okay, so was my thought process right by me going in the shower? The water was going to is that true?
Well, yeah, if you're dehydrated to a certain degree.
Okay,
well, how about this? Have you heard of coconut oil and then in a sauna?
No.
That works wonders.
Oh.
Somebody told me that. I don't know.
All right.
I don't know.
Yeah, there's always something new you learn.
Anyway, listen, and you're so interesting. We could be here for days, but our show is short. So, a couple things. One is, what is the future of your sport of bare knuckle fighting? Because I love it. As like I told you, and two, I want to know what that belt is. The other one you have there.
So first, people are already saying it. It's already coming out in many sources that this is what UFC was, the fastest growing sport.
It came out in Forbes, right?
Yes, in Forbes they mentioned it being the next $1 billion combat sports organization.
Wow.
And which is UFC today, right?
Huge.
And I believe that is very true because it's just so easy to understand.
Yeah.
Anybody can be watching this in any part of the world and be like, whoa, this guy's winning, that guy's losing.
There's like 10 fights, right? There's like 10, 12 fights.
10, 12 fights per card.
Remember the movie Bloodsport?
Yeah.
That's what it is, right? That's what I meant when he said, no, I went to where was it? I went to
overseas.
Overseas, that you said
Russia.
To Russia.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it reminds me of.
Bloodsport with the mats all bent and just blood everywhere.
Yeah, man. So the sport is definitely growing very fast, and it's going to continue.
And now you're the face of the sport, if I'm not mistaken.
I would say so. There's just two heads that I want to take out first.
Who's that?
That would be Palomino, which is a 2-time world champion in boxing.
All right.
And
you're calling him out right now.
Well, we've been going back and forth to social media and all, and this and that, and I really want the challenge because he's a 2-time world champion in boxing.
Got it.
So like in the bare knuckle world, you still have a lot of guys that are still uneducated with the hands, but they're warriors, man. If they clip you, you're done.
Yeah.
But I want the mixture more of the science of boxing to evolve more into the bare knuckle, and I believe I bring that to the table. Paulie already has that. So taking him out would be a good step to call out more pro boxers in the future. And the other one would be Artem Lobov, which is like Conor McGregor's like one of his best buddies or something.
There you go. There you go. So before we wrap up, Nick, because I know we've been having fun, but we got to wrap up. So what do you besides the fighting and the training? I know you're doing, obviously you're making a living now, which I'm happy for you. What else you got going on? I believe you have what is it?
I have a meal prep company. As we were talking, it took me a while to learn. And I have a girlfriend that was, she's Japanese, born and raised in Japan. The longest lifespan, where is it? Okinawa, Japan, right? Least obesity in the world. Japan,
absolutely.
Right? So they're taught since like 5 years old how to balance their meals. So we came up with the name Balanced Life Bento, like the bento box.
Nice.
And it started in COVID, in the middle of COVID, because she lost her job, and my son lost his job. I had just moved into his house, and we haven't lost a client, man. We haven't lost a client. We have a real good thing going on with that. I enjoy nutrition. I'm big on my body and physique, and what I put in my body, and she's very good with it. She's just extremely talented, So balanced, in IG at Balanced Life Bento, man. Follow us and give us a shot.
All right, guys. Listen, we got to wrap up. thank you for coming out. We really appreciate you.
We'll be at the next one.
Absolutely. Please have more than one bartender so I can see at least
I'll tell the promoter.
All right. And so,
if you want to follow me too in IG as well, at Luis, Luis Baboon, Baboon.
There you go.
Thank you.
Well, hey, you heard from the best. This is The Ugly Truth. Tony B.
Nick Turnbull.
All right. We'll see you next time. Thanks.